Hello, welcome to Oxford Heirlooms. In this video, we're going to do the same little zigzag green detail that we did on the sleeve down on the bottom of the hem. Now I'm going to start at the center back of the day gown. And I've got my green thread in my machine along with my green bobbin thread, and I think I have enough bobbin thread to do the whole gown, I hope. I just didn't want to refill up another bobbin. Okay, so I have my machine set for a zigzag. And on my machine, in order to do this little detail, I set my zigzag width at 2.5 and my length of my stitch at 0.7. So you'd have to play around with your machine to see what's an appropriate width and length for your machine. Okay, so I'm going to, like I did on the sleeve, I'm going to follow the bottom of the gown with my presser foot so that my zigzag ends up being about 1/4 of an inch away from the bottom of the gown. And then once I get it zigzagged all the way around, I'll use my fabric cutting scissors and trim close to the zigzag. I can go pretty fast because this is a straight stitch. Or a straight line, not a straight stitch. It's a zigzag stitch, but it's going in a straight line. This is real similar. You know, if you've got a decorative stitch on your machine that looks like a scallop that you can zigzag on, but yet you have to trim all of the little points of the scallop. This is the same type of treatment, but to me, it's just a lot easier to trim off because it's a straight line. Okay, so this is going to take me a few minutes to zigzag all the way around the bottom of the day gown. Okay, now I've got my seams on the side pressed toward the back of the day gown. So when I get to them, I'm going to make sure that the seam is pressed in the right direction. Okay, so I'll be right back once I finish zigzagging. Okay, I have that green zigzag all the way along the bottom of the gown. So using my fabric cutting scissors, I'm going to trim close to the zigzag without cutting the zigzag. I'll do this going all the way around the bottom of the gown. Now, in a little bit, after I finish, and particularly after I embroider the flowers on the bottom, I will inspect the bottom of the gown to see if I have any little ivory threads hanging down. But like I said with the sleeves, if you've torn the fabric at a straight line, or if you have cut with the grain of the fabric, it should be a fairly straight line and not leave much in the way of little ivory strings hanging down. But, you know, just in order for the bottom of the gown to be nice and neat, it's a good idea to check it. Okay, so let me continue cutting, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I've got that zigzagged all the way around and trimmed close to the zigzag. Now, what I did while I was off camera, about 1/2 inch from the bottom of the gown, I marked both of the side seams with a little blue fabric mark. Then I folded the two side seams together and marked it at the center front. Then I folded the center front and the side seam together and marked it 1/4 of the way around. I did likewise along the back. I marked it at the center back. Then I folded the side into the center and marked it 1/4 of the way across. And I did that on both sides. Now let me gather my embroidery supplies. I have a very small, about a little 3-inch size spring tension embroidery hoop. I've got my yellow floss for doing the flowers and my green floss, which I'm about to run out of green floss, for doing the little leaves. And I'm going to load up 2 needles so that so as I'm going around, I don't have to unload my needle and reload it. I can simply do the little flower and the leaves for each time that I put the embroidery hoop on the gown. So let me load up my needles with floss, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have embroidered 7 of the 8 little flowerets with leaves along the bottom of the day gown, and that is just a precious little detail. I've got them all the way around here too. Now I've got one more to do in the center front. Let's see if I can zoom in and show you how I did this. Let me see if I can get this where it's zoomed in. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to use my tiny little embroidery hoop, which I use for little details like this. I also use it when I embroider in between buttonholes. And just as a note, these little embroidery hoops are not available at the big box stores, but I have a set of 3 different sizes. A little 3-inch hoop, a 5-inch hoop, and a little 7-inch hoop, which suits me for all of my hand embroidery needs. So in the video description down below, I will put a link to the set that I ordered. Okay, now, here in the little embroidery hoop, you can see I've got a little blue dot. Now, this card kind of shows you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to start, well, I'm going to do yellow, not pink, but I'm going to start on this little petal, move up to the top petal, move over to the right petal, then go around clockwise down below to the one on the bottom, and then I'll end on the one on the left. And then once I finish making the little flowerette, I'll do 2 little lazy daisy leaves on either end. Now I'll put this up as a slide at the end of the video in case you want to look at it. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to mimic the look that we got with the little 6-petal flowerettes on the smocking. So I'm going to start, I'm using 3 strands of yellow floss. Let's see, I don't know what, let's see, I think I had the floss number on the, it's number 727, but 3 strands. So I'm going to come up about 1/8 of an inch to the left of the center of that little blue dot. Then I'm going to go in the blue dot, and then I'll come back up about 1/16 of the way, or halfway, along that first little petal. Go to make that stitch about 1/8 of an inch. So it goes to about 1/16 of an inch past where the first petal went. Come back in at the blue dot again and make the 3rd little petal. Okay, now come in right below where you just went in to the back, and we'll do the 4th of the little petals. I'll get caught on the loop here. There we go. Okay, now this next petal will be halfway along the first petal underneath it. Let me see if I can. There we go. And then go to a little way, about halfway underneath the first petal, and then come back up in the center one more time and end underneath where we started. Okay, now I'm going to turn this over and simply do a little overhand knot and cut close, about 1/8 of an inch away from the knot, just so that I don't have a mess on the inside of the gown. Okay, now I'm going to do each of the little lazy daisy leaves one at a time. So I'm going to start on the right right next to the top of the two little yellow petals. I'll go back in underneath where I started, go out about 1/8 of an inch, come up through the loop. That's why this is called a lazy daisy loop. And then go back to the back on the outside of the loop to hold that loop into place. And then once again, I'm going to tie a little overhand knot to finish that up and cut my thread about 1/8 of an inch away from the knot. Then I'm going to tie a little overhand knot in the end of the thread that I just cut. If I can get it tied. Okay, one more time. Third time's the charm, right? There. Okay, now I'm going to trim my knot to about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, now I'm going to come in on the left side of the flower and make another little lazy daisy loop. Go in right underneath it without catching your knot, and then come up about 1/8 of an inch away from where you started. And then anchor it down by going into the back on the outside of the loop. And one more time, we'll tie a little overhand knot to hold that into place. Okay, now we can take our embroidery hoop off of the gown. Now I've got a little bit of detail work to do in order to be finished with this, but let me see if I can zoom out. Okay, my detail work is going to involve, you can see the little blue dots that I put. So I'll spray that with my bottle of distilled water. I still got a couple of little ivory threads that want to hang down below my zigzag. And then once I make the little blue spots disappear, I'll need to iron each of the little flowers because the little embroidery hoop does leave a little bit of a circle around it. But this little day gown has turned out just precious, hasn't it? Okay, all right, so this is the final video for project number 44, Little Lamb's Day Gown. And the details are really sweet. I like having pretty hemlines rather than just simply hemming them on day gowns, because in those newborn photo shoots, when they take pictures of those little precious feet, they look so nice with a pretty hemline. But let's see, this is the Becca day gown from out of Classic Sewing Magazine. It's either in fall 2023, winter 2023, or fall 2024. It's always the same day gown, but it just is very adaptable for a wide variety of different treatments to make different day gowns. And like I said, I'm making day gowns to replace the ones that I no longer have in my possession. And I'll put these in my closet in my grandmother's on a hanger that I call my grandmother's hope chest. And I'll just continue to make more gowns as I have a little bit of time. But thank you.